This is CCTV footage from inside a hotel lift that shocked the internet more than a decade ago. I want you to watch it very carefully. A young woman steps inside, then presses several lift buttons in quick succession. A few seconds later, something begins to feel wrong. She cautiously leans out into the corridor, then quickly steps back inside. Moments later, she does the same thing again, almost as if she's checking whether something, or someone, is still out there. Does the foot placement look unsettling? Biomechanically, sudden pivots force the torso to turn first and leaving the feet lagging behind. Then her behavior becomes even harder to explain. She begins moving her hands through the empty air, almost as though she's responding to something the camera never captured. Some people believed she was talking to another person. Others became convinced she was reacting to something only she could see. So, what was really happening that night? This footage has now been watched by millions of people around the world and has inspired thousands of theories. Some believed she was trying to escape a killer. Others connected it to paranormal stories and the disturbing reputation of the hotel where she was staying. Even today, people still argue over what they think this recording really shows. But there's one fact that has never been disputed. This is the last known footage of that young woman alive. Not long afterwards, she vanished without a trace, and almost 3 weeks later, her body was discovered in a place so unexpected that the case would become one of the internet's most enduring mysteries. Today, we're not going to follow the rumors, the myths, or the conspiracy theories. Instead, we're going to follow the investigation itself, step by step, using the forensic evidence, the investigators' findings, and the facts that can actually be verified. This is the case of Elisa Lam.
She didn't drink, she didn't smoke, like you could barely even talk to her about sex or anything, so she was always one of those girls that, wouldn't expect her in a million years to go down the wrong path, and just had a really strong, moral character, really honorable, and always was looking to do the right thing.
Elisa Lam was born on the 30th of April 1991 in Vancouver, British Columbia. Her parents, David and Yina Lam, had emigrated from Hong Kong and built a new life by running a family restaurant, hoping to give their children opportunities they themselves had never had. Friends described Elisa as intelligent, thoughtful, and deeply curious. She loved books, photography, writing, and traveling, often documenting her experiences through her personal blog. At the beginning of 2013, she decided to explore America's West Coast alone. Her itinerary included San Diego, Los Angeles, and Santa Cruz before she planned to return home to Canada. For Elisa, it was supposed to be an adventure. No one imagined it would become her final journey. After arriving in Los Angeles, Elisa checked into the Cecil Hotel, a historic hotel in the city's Skid Row district. To her, it was simply a place to stay for a few nights before continuing her journey to Santa Cruz. The 31st of January was meant to be Elisa's last evening in Los Angeles. The following morning, she was scheduled to travel north to Santa Cruz before eventually flying back to Vancouver. Like every previous day of her trip, she was expected to telephone her parents that evening. The call never came. At first, David and Yina Lam assumed there had simply been a delay. They tried calling repeatedly, but every attempt went unanswered. As the hours passed, concern quickly turned into alarm because Elisa had never broken her promise to contact them each day. On the 1st of February, they reported her missing to the Los Angeles Police Department before boarding the next available flight to California to help search for their daughter. Officers began where any missing person inquiry naturally starts, inside Elisa's hotel room. Almost everything appeared to have been left behind, including her laptop, wallet, identification, clothing, and other personal belongings. There was no packed luggage, no indication that she had been preparing to check out, and nothing to suggest that anyone had hurriedly removed her possessions. One detail, however, stood out. Among Elisa's belongings were several prescription medication bottles. Police searched the hotel floor by floor, examining corridors, stairwells, service areas, the basement, and even the rooftop. Search dogs followed Elisa's scent as far as the 5th floor, before tracking it towards a window that opened onto the building's exterior fire escape. Then, the trail simply disappeared. No reliable witnesses came forward. There were no confirmed bank transactions, no further phone activity, and no verified sightings after that night. It was as though Elisa Lam had vanished into thin air. With every conventional lead exhausted, detectives turned to the one witness they hoped had seen something everyone else had missed: the hotel's CCTV system. Hundreds of hours of footage showed nothing out of the ordinary, until officers uncovered a recording captured inside one of the hotel's lifts on the night Elisa disappeared. When the Los Angeles Police Department released the recording to the public, their hope was simple. Someone might recognize Elisa. As the search entered its 3rd week, authorities continued following every lead available to them. Missing person posters appeared throughout Los Angeles. Local news stations broadcast appeals for information, and officers interviewed hotel staff, nearby businesses, and anyone who might have crossed Elisa's path. Nothing brought them any closer to finding her. Meanwhile, life inside the Cecil Hotel continued as normal. Guests checked in and checked out, took showers, brushed their teeth, brewed coffee, and filled glasses with water, completely unaware that the answer to her whereabouts might already have been sitting directly above them. Then the complaints began. Several guests reported unusually low water pressure. Others noticed that the water had become discolored, while some complained about an unpleasant smell and an unusual taste.
And the water for first 2 seconds or 3 seconds was coming black, and then after a while we would drink it, but it had strange...
At first, hotel staff assumed they were dealing with nothing more than a routine maintenance problem. But as the complaints continued to increase, a maintenance worker named Santiago Lopez was asked to inspect the rooftop water tanks. On the 19th of February 2013, Lopez made his way onto the roof before climbing the fixed metal ladder attached to one of the large storage tanks that supplied water throughout the hotel. As he reached the inspection platform, one detail immediately caught his attention. The hatch was already open. He climbed to the top, leaned over the opening, and looked inside. Floating on the surface of the water was the body of a young woman. She was severely decomposed and almost immediately identified as Elisa Lam. Within minutes, the rooftop was sealed off as fire crews, paramedics, LAPD homicide detectives, and forensic specialists arrived at the scene. Recovering Elisa's body proved far more complicated than anyone expected, because the inspection hatch was too narrow for her remains to be removed safely. Emergency crews were forced to drain the entire tank before cutting through its steel side to retrieve the body. As they searched the tank itself, they recovered Elisa's clothing, along with her sandals, room key, and watch. One important item, however, was missing: her mobile phone. Despite extensive searches, it has never been recovered. The discovery answered one question: Elisa had finally been found. But it immediately created several more. How had she reached the rooftop? How had she climbed into the tank? And if someone else had put her there, what evidence should they have left behind? Rather than relying on rumors or the hotel's dark reputation, detectives chose to start where any murder probe must begin, with the body itself. Because if another person had been responsible for Elisa's death, the truth would often reveal itself through the evidence she carried with her. Every case has a story waiting to be understood, not just solved. If that's the kind of documentary you enjoy, I'd love to have you with us here at Fog Dossier. So consider subscribing, and let's explore the next case together. Just hours after Elisa Lam's body was recovered, forensic pathologists at the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office began their examination. Their role was not to explain every mystery surrounding the case. Their responsibility was much narrower. They needed to establish how Elisa had died, because although rumors can spread within hours, the human body follows evidence. The examination immediately challenged one of the strongest assumptions surrounding the investigation. Pathologists found no injuries consistent with a violent struggle. There were no broken bones, stab wounds, gunshot wounds, significant head injuries, or damage to the neck that would suggest strangulation. They also found no forensic evidence indicating that Elisa had been sexually assaulted before her death. As part of the examination, specialists carefully inspected beneath her fingernails, where victims sometimes leave skin cells, hair, or DNA belonging to an attacker while fighting back. Nothing was found. No biological evidence suggested that another person had physically assaulted Elisa before she entered the water. Although the medical examiner ultimately determined the official cause of death to be accidental drowning rather than blunt force trauma, blood loss, poisoning, or an overdose, that conclusion answered only one part of the puzzle. It explained how Elisa died. It did not explain how she had ended up inside a rooftop water tank that few people even knew existed. With the post-mortem examination complete, detectives shifted their focus back to the Cecil Hotel itself. If the forensic evidence offered no convincing indication that another person had physically placed Elisa inside the water tank, the next step was to determine whether she could realistically have reached it on her own. For years, that possibility had been dismissed by countless people online. Many believed the rooftop was effectively inaccessible. According to the most widely repeated version of events, the only route led through a locked rooftop door connected to an alarm system, beyond which stood a service platform, a fixed maintenance ladder, and finally, the large water tanks themselves. On the surface, it sounded like an almost impossible journey for a young woman traveling alone. It was an argument that appeared convincing, but the search team was interested in evidence rather than assumptions. Instead of asking whether the journey looked difficult, they examined whether it was physically possible. The hotel did have an internal rooftop door connected to an alarm system, but it was not the only way onto the roof. Running down the outside of the building was a metal fire escape that could be reached through corridor windows on several floors. During the civil proceedings brought by Elisa's family, hotel maintenance staff confirmed that this exterior route provided access to the rooftop without passing through the alarmed door. Independent visitors later demonstrated the same route for themselves. It certainly required determination, but it did not require another person. That answered one important question. Another still remained. Even if Elisa reached the rooftop, could she have climbed onto the water tank? Officers found nothing unusual about the tanks themselves. Each one had a permanent metal ladder fixed to its side so that maintenance workers could carry out routine inspections. Anyone who reached the rooftop could also climb onto the tanks without needing specialized equipment or assistance. There was still one final physical detail that required explanation. Why had Elisa been found without her clothes? To many people, that single fact seemed impossible to reconcile with the idea that nobody else had been involved. Yet, when forensic teams examined the inside of the tank, they recovered her red hoodie, grey t-shirt, black shorts, sandals, room key, and watch from the bottom of the same tank where her body was found. The discovery suggested that she had entered the water fully clothed before those items became separated from her. Forensic specialists have documented similar behavior in other drowning cases. As clothing becomes saturated with water, it grows heavier and increasingly restricts movement. People struggling to stay afloat sometimes remove those garments instinctively in an effort to keep themselves above the surface, even though doing so rarely changes the outcome. It is a desperate response, not an uncommon one. By now, detectives have been able to reconstruct almost every physical stage of Elisa's final journey. The rooftop could be reached without triggering the alarm. The water tank could be climbed using its fixed ladder. The hatch had already been open, and the evidence inside the tank accounted for the clothing she was no longer wearing. One by one, the practical obstacles that had once seemed impossible were becoming easier to explain. Yet solving the physical journey only exposed an even deeper mystery. If nothing prevented Elisa from reaching that rooftop alone, what could possibly have persuaded her to go there in the first place? By this stage, police had accounted for almost every physical aspect of the case. The rooftop was accessible, the water tank could be climbed, the hatch was open, and the autopsy offered no signs of foul play. Yet the central questions remained. Why did the lift behave so strangely? And why would an intelligent 21-year-old student willingly climb into a rooftop water tank? Engineers confirmed that the doors remained open simply because multiple floor buttons had been pressed, or the door hold function had been activated, a standard mechanical response, not an outside manipulation. Similarly, gaps or speed variations in the footage were not evidence of a cover-up, but the result of standard police editing used to protect privacy and preserve confidential details. With the technical mysteries resolved, detectives turned to the toxicology report to understand Elisa's state of mind. Tests detected no alcohol or illicit drugs. However, they revealed a far more critical finding.
I know that she did suffer from some depression, but other than that, the behavior, yes, is strange, but I can't tell you any more than that.
Several medications prescribed to manage Elisa's bipolar I disorder were present at significantly lower levels than expected, while a key antipsychotic was absent altogether. When investigators consulted her family, the picture became clear. Her relatives confirmed that when Elisa stopped taking her medication, she experienced severe paranoid episodes, believing she was being followed and reacting to threats invisible to everyone else. Suddenly, the lift footage made sense. In behavioral science, a severe psychotic episode profoundly distorts a person's perception. External reality recedes, replaced by intense, genuine fear. Actions that appear irrational to an outside observer become entirely logical to the individual experiencing them. Elisa's erratic movements were not random. They were the actions of someone desperately responding to a reality constructed by her own mind. Through that lens, the rooftop was never the destination. It was simply where that invisible struggle eventually led her. Seeking escape from an imagined threat, she likely climbed into the open water tank, believing it to be the safest place available. Moments later, it became a trap from which escape was almost impossible. While minor details remain unanswered, such as her missing phone, they do not overturn the physical and forensic evidence. Sometimes the truth does not end where every question has been answered. Sometimes it ends where the evidence can go no further. The greatest danger Elisa faced that night was never waiting inside the hotel. It was the terrifying reality her own mind had created. Behind every online theory and frame of footage, there remains a daughter, a sister, and a student whose story was overshadowed by the mystery of her death. Remembering Elisa only as an internet mystery misses the person at the heart of it all. Because sometimes, the most difficult mysteries are not hidden inside abandoned hotels or rooftop water tanks. Sometimes they exist quietly within the human mind itself.